I'm going to go through, just give you a visual again on the project, where we're at, make sure everybody knows that we're tracking along really well. And you'll see what kind of requirements and development that's being done right now. And the reason we do that too is just in case you see something that's a very much of an interest to you, you can ask, ask us anything about that because we're focusing on that during that time period. So I'm going to show you that just briefly. And then we've asked for ETPL coordinators to be engaged today for each of the locos. And I think I think Kelly thinks we have a number of those. So we went ahead and had this. So just to tell everybody, we have some cleanup from last time, but this is a kind of a little bit of a repeat from last time because last time we did not have all the LWIA ETPL coordinators invited, and this definitely hits their area. So we definitely need feedback on this reapplication process of training plans. Okay, so let me jump in real quick and give you an idea. We just have one requirement document that's in review, lingering from September. No big deal there. We have a couple requirement documents already in the review process. Well, at least this one is right now. This is this discussion right now we're going to have today. And then this is all the work that's happening from a discovery standpoint in October. It's quite a bit. These ones you see here are these intake web pages that are getting redesigned so that they're a little bit more intuitive and enable us to funnel in folks from the website directly into a self-serve intake process. So those are getting looked at this month. The application is still in the forefront. We'll be finishing up here. I'll be finishing up outcomes and education. You see that's a little late. That's why that's red. But I should be finishing that up here this week, and we'll have that in review next week. And then we're doing a lot of work here in the reporting, and we'll be looking at the reports we have today and starting to put those requirements together one by one as we go along. So this reporting, obviously, you see it goes from 8.4 to 327. You'll see that sliding across for state and local reports. And I say static, meaning that these are ones that would be created and available to you on the report landing page. And we'll show those, we'll be able to show those pretty frequently and often, in this meeting. We have other assessment work that's been going on. Lynette and Olivia have been working in that. We have this career plan, customer facing, meaning what's it look like for the actual participant or customer. We got that going on too. And then down in here, these are all the things right now currently in development. We probably have a few more that I haven't gotten in there, but these are in development. And then some upgrades to training plan and all that are in there, and some cross system. We're doing a lot of work. Lynette's team is doing a lot of work with the user log on and all that. So that's coming soon. Probably the next time you get into UAT with us, you'll probably potentially be logging in. Maybe, I don't know for sure, but soon we will be doing that login. I think maybe we're knocking that out before November. And then a lot of stuff going on and outcomes for employment, credentials, those kinds of things, pre-screening. These red blocks, once again, are training assets that are being created by Kelly, and those will be starting to be knocked out and available. And those will be available as soon as we get those done into draft mode or whatever for later UAT sessions. So we would like to, just like we want eyes continually on the product, we'll want eyes on the assets too, so that we can make sure that when we get down here, to the end that we're training with good assets. These are just the technical side, though. There's a whole bunch of work from folks on the policy side and the why you do things, so to speak. This is kind of the how you do things in the system is what this is. So that's where we are, clicking right along, doing well. We've had a lot of engagement. We got a lot of stuff knocked out in September. I anticipate that October will be as fruitful, and then November, and then when we get to that December time frame, you'll see those modules or whatever will be winding down a little bit more from a discovery standpoint. Of course, this is going to be filled up as we go along with the sprint and development. And then the UAT will also, which is down here, will also, we got pre-screening UAT right now, career plan and goals and objectives, some of that. We got referral plan, I'm on the wrong month. Training program cycle 6 will come in, and cycle 2 will come in, and you'll get to see all that in October. Should be towards the end of October. We got just a few more tweaks left from the outcomes from the UAT you had before, and we definitely want to show those off to you. Those things you requested or you thought were difficult to use or didn't make sense. We've got almost every one of those fixed up, and we'll be ready towards the end of the month once we get through the sprints. So that's where we're at. Just wanted to make sure you're kept abreast of what's going on in this. Okay, so the main thing today is I want to go through this step by step one more time, and maybe flush out any problems that you might see. I'm going to zoom in on this. This is what this looks like. And what are we talking about? What's the subject we're talking about? It's the reapplication process, right? So this will happen for new programs in 1 year. This will happen for other programs that have been over 1 year old every 2 years or less. It depends upon what your local area wants to set those end dates at. Some areas may want those to be set together or maybe not, but you have that option. We'll show you where you have that option. But basically, this is the reapplication for continued eligibility process, okay? Now, this workflow is important because it encompasses all the actions that you take, the review process that you take, and the notifications that go out to the provider user. Now, understand that the provider user, the big difference here is the provider user is getting in and going directly to their programs, updating them however they need to update them, and resubmitting those or submitting those for continued eligibility. Okay? Okay. All right. So right off the bat, we got something on the start here. Well, the start of this most likely will be initiated by the system automatically notifying the provider contacts with an email that's leading up to the program expiration. So if you have one or more programs that are within 90 days of expiration, then the email will list those program names and expiration dates with the days until expiration, and that'll come out in an email once a week. So if any program is within 90 days of expiration and it has not been resubmitted or continued, then the provider contacts that have a switch that's set to, yes, I want to receive notifications, then they're going to get a notification that says, here are your programs that are ready, that need to be, within 90 days, need to be resubmitted. Okay. Okay. That switch can be set on the contact that's already added. It's new in the system. I can even show you that a little later. And that switch, so you'll have contacts on locations. Locations can share contacts. So a contact could be a contact for multiple locations if necessary, but basically you have contacts on locations. And if those folks will have email addresses, and those email addresses, if they have that switch on once a week within the 90-day period of any of those training programs that will expire, they'll get an email that says, here's your programs, please come in and I'll show you those emails. It might be tweaked a little bit, but I'll show you those in a minute. Okay, so that's what happens to initiate this and that start at bubble one. Okay, now, so then the provider user will come into their program. The actual email will tell them not only how to get into their program, but it'll also have a link to them to get directly into their list of programs. And when they select one of those
Hey,
programs,
sorry, Al.
go ahead.
This is Mark. Just curious, I'm not sure I recall the discussion on them opting out of getting emails. Is that going to be an option?
Yeah, we did
Is that
have
what
that. Yeah. So I think that, Mark, I think that we need at least one contact, right? So we won't allow them to have have all their contacts opt out. We will have to have at least one. And there's a main contact that we have that we're going to recognize a main contact or kind of a provider administrator kind of thing. And that one we will not let opt out. Okay. But there could be a lot of contacts that are in there that may not want those messages. That was what we were doing. And we added that switch, which is that first, if you notice that first in that workflow narrative, that 1A, it talks about that receive notification switch. Now, if you want that to say, no, nobody can opt out of those messages, we can do that. That's not a problem.
I mean, I think that's okay as long as one person is getting those because we don't want everyone to say, oh, I'm tired of getting all these emails. Nobody
Exactly.
gets it. And before you know it, nobody submitted a program in a
Correct.
timely manner. So I think whenever they're setting up their relationship or whatever it's called, whoever at the provider level is
Yep.
taking lead, somebody needs to be in that list of names,
Yep.
has to have a checkbox that says I am the lead, and then you can't opt
Yep.
out.
That's what
Okay,
we're doing.
great.
So we have exactly. So we have a main contact. And that main contact is the one that A can invite other contacts, so to speak, to get into this. But B, they're the ones that cannot have opt out. You're correct.
Okay, all right, great.
Yep.
And for all those, especially, I know there's a few of you that were invited today that haven't been on these Thursdays. It might be a lot to digest, not having heard some of the conversations beforehand. But if you see something that you want to question, don't hesitate. We are thinking at this as much from as we can from your perspective, but we don't know your perspective, especially, we've got several people from a lot of the LWIAs on these that have a lot of programs, and we don't want to overwhelm people. Um, but we need to get the message out and try to do as best we can to prevent uh, delays in getting programs submitted so that we aren't rushing to try and approve them uh, at the end of an expiration period.
Yeah, this is a Joel Torbeck. Question on, so if you have a main contact, and because we have lots of providers, if that person leaves, whose responsibility is it to create a new main contact? Is it the provider or is it us, or what would be the process within here to do that?
Well, obviously it is their responsibility, but it doesn't mean from a local administrator standpoint or whatever, you can't set that main contact to another one of those contacts. But I don't know how you know now. We'll have a little bit better control over that now because they're going to be maintaining those records. Where today you don't have that. The only thing I believe the only thing a contact user can do is if they have that switch to ITA and they get a user ID and password, I think the only thing they can do is change, update, or add training programs. But in the future, they'll be able to maintain their provider demographic records. So they'll be able to maintain those, the contacts they can add, remove, and those kinds of things. So I think that'll be a little better, but ultimately, yeah, if they don't do that, um, on that main contact, like if the main contact leaves and then nobody tells you or they don't mess with the record, that is an issue.
Yeah, I'm
So,
wondering
just
how.
making sure that we would be able to actually, if at our point, just select someone else as the contact if we know that that might be the
Sure.
person, rather than have to wait for them to do it.
Right. If you know, then you want to select somebody else. We do have some, and I'll have to look and see, we do have some capability to know if that email has been received and if that email has been opened. Okay. So that might help to us to know it's like, wait a minute, why are these emails not getting looked at or open? Obviously, it could be routed to the spam or something like that. We don't know for sure why they're not being opened, but we do have some capability around that. I'll have to dig in deeper and see what that capability is and if we need to expose that somehow to the users of the system so that maybe we could catch some of that of email not delivered. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have it. I'll take any kind of suggestions on how we, you know, this is a part of the process. It's tough. You know, how do we know when someone leaves and that particular person just happened to be the main contact unless we try to contact them sometime?
Well, I mean, it's one thing if they're just no longer that person, but they're still employed, they'll still have an email address there.
Mhm.
But if they just like leave, then they'll often like delete that email account. And just to know that if it's getting bounced back, that we need to do something about it.
Right.
I was going to say the same thing. Let's get back to the email because normally, sometimes, this is Robert, sometimes when a person leaves the company, it kind of gives you a message on your system that, hey, it's not deliverable. Email is no longer valid. And
Right.
also, what I also tend to do, the people that handle ITAs, like my case
Yes.
manager, I have them like give me a contact to that school or something. And then sometime I come back where it's a new contact. Sometimes I had the same contact. Then I have to contact them and say, hey, is this person still the same person, the primary contact of the training providers? And they would
Right.
either tell me yes or no. Now, some providers do have a lot of contact, and I'm gonna be with Mark. That's going to be a lot of email notification going out there to everyone if everybody hit that button on. I mean, is there a way to limit to maybe a certain amount? Depending on what the group think. Because if you got the primary getting the email, we don't need to have 20 other people getting the same email. That's too much repetition going on. They should have a better communication within they providers, I should say. What is your thought about that?
Well, I guess it's like a lot of things, you know, I don't know what the right number would be for the organization. I mean, it could be a percentage of, we could say, well, we only do 10% of the contacts. I don't know what the right number would be.
Could-
I don't exactly
uh,
know why it would be a bad thing for people to get those notifications, even if they're not the ones that actually modify or reapply on the
And see, why I
training.
say that, Al, is that these people start leaving. Then we talking about trying to monitor who's there and who's not there no more. If I got some provider who's got about maybe 10 or more contact in there, who's going to monitor that? Now you're making the system overload. You're making the system overwork. For what is the purpose? I'm looking at it from a system side. Don't look at it from a person getting a notification, because if you got some kind of communication within your company, 5, 6 people, you want to tell me they can't spread that word around and say, hey,
well,
we got this.
kind of a little bit different look at that, Robert. from my perspective is if someone needs to get it, because, you know, if they've got a lot of programs, maybe there are multiple people that are responsible for various programs. I'm wondering how, you know, like we sign up to get emails from DOL and we go down this long list and we check off what we want to get emails. Could there be, let the people decide if they want to get the email, but only people with the certain roles would see it in their list? So if I'm not associated with ETPL, if I'm a career, you know, if I'm a, I don't know, career associate, or I don't know what name they would be
Counselor or
called at a
something.
community college, yeah, counselor, I wouldn't be listed as getting emails for ETPL.
Yeah, we've
but
thought about that, Mark, having
let them choose, but at
having
least one
different
person has
switches.
to, yeah.
We thought about that. I don't know if we can get that in MVP to have all these different switches of which emails do you want and which you don't want and
Yeah.
keep those up. So that is in the back of our, you know, of our enhancement list. I mean, right now there's a switch that they can turn on and off on their record that says, yeah, I want notifications by email. Probably there's not going to, you know, if you think about it, I don't see us having a lot of notifications other than this to a provider, other than this process around this process of making a program eligible or not. I don't think there's going to be a lot of other emails to providers than that, you know, than that alone. I don't even know what they'd be, but a little different with a customer slash participant that might be different. There might be some other ones, but and definitely with people that are career planners and all that may be a big deal there. But from a provider perspective, I don't know if there's a lot of communication we have these. You guys know because you email today manually, so I don't know if there's going to be a lot other than getting their programs in, getting their program approved, or getting them
I,
continually approved.
you know, I'm talking about just the providers. I mean, in-house, everybody going to get certain information. I get that. I'm just talking about providers. If you
That's all I'm
have
talking
a lot
about.
of, you know, I mean, some provider doesn't have a lot of program, but then they have 6, 7 contacts. I'm like, okay. And I mean, I like to think that they could turn off and on. My only problem is the email once those people is not gone, it still stay there, and it's hard from us to try to find out who's at the provider, especially when we're not contacting them. Only when recertification come up, a new program is submitted to us, then we'll know. Then we get the full scope of what's going on. So it just, I guess I'm just voicing my opinion and stuff. I mean, we want the
No,
system.
that's
I
fine.
know.
No, fine. And yeah, that's fine. So we can kind of weigh that out as one of the things I want is a little difficult the IT process, the user acceptance to get the whole feel of this.
Now you're
We'll have to
cutting in and out
see.
unless that's on my
We can
side.
see if we can play the role of a provider, some of us, and then play the role of a coordinator, because it's a little difficult from a user perspective to say, I'm going in to see all, do all, and try to process this be pain or not. But to kind of see this process, right?
Hey Al,
Get or
your audio is cutting out a little bit.
okay. Sorry.
Well,
Is that
that's right.
so yeah? No.
Can you say something else?
Yeah, hello? No, I don't
Oh,
think you can hear me.
okay, we can hear you better now.
Okay. I don't know what, yeah, I don't know. That happened yesterday too. I think my word count gets bigger than the anyway, what I'm trying is we're gonna have to kind of get a feel for this workflow process. We're trying to get our best foot forward in this. And get a nice process, tweak that process. Everybody, it's interesting though, but when we hit this right off the bat, everybody's concerned about so somebody
Yeah, you're cutting in and out again bad.
the them or them of their programs coming up for renewal, okay? They should want to keep these programs on there, right? So it's not like we're saying, hey, we're begging you. They should also have some desire to follow an email and just and understand that. I mean, so there's two sides to that too. Okay. And the second thing I want to say is about this first.
Hey, Al, on
Yeah.
your first point, we got the end of that where they want some desire to fill out on their side as well.
Let me
But the beginning of that part, we did not.
let me see if I can get in here on my phone and for voice, and then we'll go the other routes. Hold on a minute.
While he's doing that, for those that are posting in the chat about you contacting providers now, the system we can only set up for 22 OEIs. I mean, there may be some options. I don't want to speak for Al, and he's having audio issues, but or the programming team, maybe Kelly or Lynette can speak to it. But the primary thing we have to be concerned about is that we're informing the provider that they're coming up due when their period of eligibility is going to expire. And that starts at 90 days out. And there will be very little leeway if a program goes beyond the expiration of that time frame. So we want to make sure that they have adequate contact through the system to remind them that, hey, we need you to start thinking, are you going to resubmit for continued eligibility or not? And you should think about doing it now because as a reminder, in the new system, local ETPL coordinators are acting on behalf of the state. There is no local input to this in a sense of we're approving something because we like it at a local level. You're approving it for the entire state. And that may cause its own differences in what you're doing now, but the process has to be consistent throughout the state. DOL's made it clear with us that we have to develop policy and processes that are statewide, not local focused. So some of these concerns we might have to work through. Doesn't mean you can't still reach out to them, but you'll have a dashboard, like Laura said, that allows you to look at all the programs that have been identified in your local area. You can break them down by provider, however you want to look at those. And so if you want to keep an eye on that dashboard and then reach out to them, there's nothing going to stop you from doing that. But we have to make sure they're getting these emails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Hey,
think
Mark,
the more that there you go. As I say, the more that Al gets to go through this, the more you'll see the process and answer. Some of these questions will be answered as he goes through it. So,
yes. Excuse me, Mark. This is Joel Torbeck again. Can you? I know we discussed this, I think, in the last meeting, but can you maybe go through a little bit that currently, even if there's like just a change in the tuition that we have to go in and redo it, what are they going to be? What are going to be the new requirements or the parameters of when things have to be updated and changed?
Well, that process won't change much in the new system and new policy that it will associate with it. If a provider has new information on all all those data or those points that they submit in an application, name of program, description, SOC codes, zip codes, prices, all that. Currently, we have 6 or 7 items that say if you change these items, it will go up for review again for eligibility. One thing we are taking away from that is the cost, because there's no reason to require it to get determine eligibility just because of costs, because they're only relevant to the local area and what they want to spend. They're not relevant to the program itself. I don't care if someone tells me it costs $1,000 or $10,000, to be honest. It doesn't tell me the quality of the program. locally, you'll be able to say, well, if it's 20,000, we're not going to be able to pay for that. But it's not an eligibility determination point. So the provider will be expected when something changes, as with all of our stuff, career planning on out, to update the system within 10 days of knowing that that changed. And the system will then say, oh, by the way, this is an, critical piece of information that's going to require this to go back to a coordinator to review and approve or not, depending on what that is. Now, they're working on the logistics, if that's probably not the right word, of if I change a couple words in my program description, but not really change and alter the description of the program, I'm just updating some words, whether that would require or not, because normally a program update, description update would require reevaluation. So if there's some way of you doing some kind of work to evaluate the change of words to say, okay, this doesn't require it, it may just come down to an ETPL coordinator looking at the change to say, okay, this isn't significant enough for me to, be concerned. I'm going to go ahead and approve it again. And just continue it on. But anytime a change in information is received, all you're doing is approving it to continue on through the period of the eligibility, whether it's 1 year from initial or 2 years for continued. You're not getting a new 2-year period. It's just continuing on. Anything maybe I missed on that, Joel?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Al.
All right, good. I put it on phone. The voice, so we should be okay now.
Okay. Yeah,
And
so I was
let me-
responding to a question from Joel. I want to make sure, sorry, Al, that I've addressed it. And then Amy had a comment that
Okay.
maybe needs your attention anyway. I don't know what her comment is. So,
Okay.
Joel, is there something maybe, did I answer what you're looking for? You're on mute if you're trying to respond, Joel.
Oh, excuse me, I got
There you go. Yep.
interrupted.
All right. Yeah. So did I address what you were asking, Joel?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. And then Amy, you
Yeah,
had a question or comment?
No, I was just agreeing with, let's let Al kind of go through. I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
we've just gotten to the bounce backs. I think it would be helpful to kind of just understand the process a little bit more detail, so.
All right, let's do that. And then we can definitely go back through it step by step. But the next thing, so the particular provider user gets the email, gets the link, goes in, and gets directed to their program. And when they get to view that program, they'll see a reapply button, and they'll select that reapply button, and then they will be able to make changes to that program. What we do is we kind of copy that program. Don't worry about that part, but they work on the new program edits to the program because the active program is still active, and we don't want to change that until the continued program continuation attributes are reviewed and accepted. Okay, so that's what happens there. And that will only be available to the provider user if the program is currently active or the program is within 30 days after expiration date. We thought we should take that a little bit longer just because at the end of that period of 30 days, then there's no reapply button available, and they would have to create and initiate the plan all over again, because we can't hold that. We can't allow that to be forever on getting that done. And I think I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking we might want to have some language in there in that email that basically says, they need to get that in within a few, certain number of days, because they need to get those reapplied, because that whole 90-day process, there's quite a bit of that's in the review process. So if it's not get submitted pretty quickly, if they think they have 90 days to submit that, that's going to make it difficult to get that done before expiration. All right, so we're gonna have to think about what that means, but let's go on. And then they make changes, okay, so the system will copy the program, then they could make changes to it. They could also add performance data to this, okay? And then the provider user can set the end date, okay, of the new program if it's less than or equal to 24 months after the start date. So that need to be changed by the local reviewer, the coordinator, but that can be changed, okay? And that reason for that is maybe they're going to discontinue that program within a year or 18 months, not 24 months. So once the provider user is satisfied with their updates to the program, then they can submit that program for review. The same kind of rules apply to to the resubmission review process as the original submission, right? If the program is in state and it's not 100% online, then and it's not a RAB program, then the appropriate LWIB will be notified of the resubmission. And if the program is out of state or 100% online or RAB, then that goes directly to the DCO ETPL coordinator. Okay, that's the same process that we talked about in the new submissions also. So we route the locals to the local, we route the out of states and onlines and RAPs directly to the state DCL coordinator. Okay. So that's what this is about here. It says basically if this is in state, yes, it's going for LWIA review. If it's not, then it's distance learning, it's going to go straight to the state for that review. Okay. All right, let's go to 7 here. Oh, also here, the system will send out notification emails at the time of submission for review. The notification email will be sent to the provider contacts that have indicated their desire to receive the notifications. This will happen at the time of submission. So you know that submission took place. You got affirmative, you got something in your email that says, yep, you submitted it, we received it, whatever. And then the notification email will be sent to the LWIA ETPL coordinators. Once again, each week, Monday morning, you'll get a notification on the local coordinators that there have been some recent submissions, one or more, and they're ready for review. So we want to make sure that when you go into the list, remind you to go into the list and look at it. So LWIA or LWIB coordinator, that starts, and there's several things that can happen here. The local coordinator will have, and we put in here 45 days. So here we're going to look at and monitor 45 days to review and decide about the recommendation for continued approval. Remember, they're recommending it to be approved or not recommending it to be approved. Okay. The initial for local coordinator sets the status to approval. The end date can change. Local, if you want to line those up. And then also the local coordinator could ask for a verification also. Yeah.
Hey, Al, I got a question.
Yeah.
We have locally, we have performance requirements, additional performance requirements of all of our training providers that
Yes.
we have. Where is that happening?
Yes. So they won't be able to resubmit these without uploading and adding in their performance. That's going to be across the board, not just be.
No, Al, I think Amy's talking about her, oh, Mark's got his hand up, so I'll let Mark speak to that.
Yeah, two things here. First, I think, if they have performance information, it should be entered. But to my point earlier, Amy and others, you won't be able to use the local performance policy guidance to decide if this is going on a statewide list of eligible training providers and programs. That can be used in your career planning and discussions with participants to say, while there's a list of, X number of programs that meet your interests, here are some that underperform or perform at a high rate or whatever. But you can't use that in determining whether it's eligible or not. And a couple of reasons for that is, one, again, this is a statewide list that we've been monitored and provided write-up on by DOL that says we have to be looking at this from a statewide list statewide perspective. And two, we don't even have any guidance issued in Illinois that says what an acceptable performance outcome level is. We will be doing that, but we have to figure out what's reasonable, and we only can do that by getting data. So it will take a little bit of time. We'll start collecting the information upon issuance of new policy and the system allowing for uploads of performance. But it'll take us, just like with WIOA performance in general. DOL didn't hold anyone accountable for several years because they had to capture the information first and figure out what is a good level, an acceptable level for performance to say you've succeeded or not. So it's going to be quite a while before we can get to that point, but we're going to start immediately as far as collecting. And then again, you can use your performance information that you have in making local decisions only. But we've mentioned this before. You have to start with a statewide list when you're talking with your participants, because we want to make sure they have every opportunity. Maybe they're okay with relocating for a job that, initially doesn't seem appropriate because it doesn't exist in the local area they live in. Maybe they'll move. So to limit the list to only your local area takes that possibility away. Same with where they can receive the training. Maybe they will travel to receive the training. So to only say, well, this doesn't work for us in LWIA 20 or wherever, so we're not even going to give it to the participant as an option, won't be allowed.
It's not I'm hearing too, if I get a training provider, we had hold our training providers to more higher benchmarks. So we're looking at their training related employment. We're looking at their completion rate and probably their credential rate. So we're trying to hold them to more, if you fail one of these three benchmarks, which we've said, you're off, we won't continue funding you, and you're off the list.
Okay, that's a different,
Right.
Those are two different things, Amy.
Well,
It's
that's
different
what
to
I'm
say
talking about.
funding versus being on the list. They have to be on the list if they meet state policy guidance. You have to approve them. And state policy guidance will not have a local defined performance expectation.
All right, I just
When it
updated
gets,
our
when
policy.
it gets to your local implementation of policy, you certainly can tell the participant that while this program is on the list, it underperforms, and we do not want you, and we will not pay for your training because we don't think it will lead to a good outcome. That's different. If you look at the Teagle, they show a circle within a circle, and the big circle is the statewide ETPL list, and the little circle is the local ETPL list. That's where you can make decisions locally to say, okay, here's a list of 4,000 programs statewide, but in our area, while you can look at all 4,000 programs, here's what we would recommend, and it's only 200 programs or whatever the number is, and the reason for that, and give them the reasons why. And again, just like you have ITA limits, you can have performance limits to say we're just not going to fund this because we don't think it leads to a good outcome.
But our board will have to approve it. I mean, why have local boards approve?
They're not going to be
they're not-
approving, and it'll be
Right,
an
they're not.
ETPL coordinator approving on behalf of the board. So these programs won't be able to sit there waiting for the next board meeting. The ETPL coordinator, because it's going to be consistent, we will expect that
Okay,
22 local ETPL coordinators, 3 state ETPL coordinators, or however many we have it in OET, will all be handling every program in similar fashion, even though we're looking at them in a different, we're looking at them from an individual perspective. You can't make a decision on that individual or local perspective. So, that'll be part of the technical assistance, and it'll be a change for all of you to realize that you're looking at it from a statewide perspective, a statewide list, and only using statewide criteria to approve. And so at the end of the day, maybe in a quarterly meeting, you'll go to the board and you'll say, okay, here are the programs that got approved in the last 3 months. And here are the ones that got revoked. Here are the ones that didn't get approved, whatever you want to report to them, but they won't be seeing a list to say, do you want to approve this or not? And I've been part of that. I've been to a couple of local board meetings where that
Yeah.
occurred. And it's just the way that we always listed, and DOL has made clarification to us that we have to do it this way going forward.
okay,
Now,
all right, thanks.
now I want to make sure of this. I'm going to step out on land, but I want you, Laura, or Mark, to correct me if I'm wrong. But if you didn't want to use that specific training program or in your local or that trainer or whatever, you could not set a relationship up for that, right? If you're saying, well, how do I know which
Correct,
one?
yeah, if they're not gonna have them on their local ETPL, if they develop a local ETPL, then
Yes.
they would not set up a relationship with that
Yes.
entity, correct?
Because that's independent, right? You still have to set up relationships for those and with the training.
Absolutely, once they're
Training selected.
approved,
Yeah.
yes, once they're approved, then the local system administrator has, or whoever locally has that role, has to develop that relationship so that it shows up on the customer side,
Yep,
so.
yep. And that's how I just wanted to bring that up, because if you're wondering like, well, wait a minute, how do I keep them from being always coming up? And when we're trying to get training, well, that's how you would do that. Just don't set up a relationship with those.
Mhm.
Okay, let me, is that, okay, let me go ahead here. We're down here. Just want to remind on 9 that we can request, the local can request for some kind of fix or change prior to approval. In other words, there's something in there they submitted that you probably think is probably not right or could be corrected. You could definitely send that back around, and the provider gets an email message on that that says, hey, you might want to look at this. It needs some correction. Okay. And then that comes back through, of course. Then you get to the point where you recommend to approve. If you recommend to approve it, then on 11, then it goes straight up to the state. The status is LWIB recommended. It's actually, the status is LWIB recommended for approval, and we definitely indicate that it's a continued program, just so everybody knows. And that goes to the state ETPL coordinator for their review. If you don't recommend that for approval, remember when you select that to not approve, you select statuses in that also. And then that we don't, at that time, I just want to make sure everybody knows, we're not automatically sending a notification out until we get through the state review, because even if you don't recommend it for approval, for whatever the reason is you select, it still goes to the state ETPL coordinator for review. Okay, so we don't want to send out a notification that says, no, it's not been approved yet until we through that state. Okay, that's why you don't see that come out of there. Okay, now on the, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got a question, because it says that the LWIB, is it the board?
Right, I was just putting that in the chat.
Yeah, that should not be the
Now you
board. That
got
should
me
be the ETPL
confused.
coordinator.
Yeah,
All right,
Okay, all right, yeah, that's fine. I can change all those. In fact, we may have to change that some other places too. Okay. And then it goes to the state. So this is the not recommended approval track here. That's over here. It goes to the state reviewer. And then the state ETPL coordinator can review that. They could also fix this. So they could say, you know what? I think if they fix this, even though your reasons and you didn't recommend it, I think if they fix this or change this or whatever, I believe it could be and back through and we could probably approve it. Okay, so that's still a possibility. Then the next 15 is that they agree with the LWIA or the local coordinator and agree with the reasons. Yes. And that goes out and that there is an email that comes out of here that says basically here's the reasons why we're not approving it. If they do not agree, whether it's approve, they don't agree with the reasons, or they don't agree with the recommendation, then it goes into that, okay, does that state approve it or not? If they approve it, then we essentially activate the continued program, but we actually, the activation of that program will be or the continued on those attributes will be at the end of the current program. Okay. So, so it's not really even, it's active. Here, let me get the exact language we have here. This is, I don't see it, but this will be active and it'll still be pending expiration of the current program. Okay. If it's not approved for renewal, right, then we send out an email message. Both cases, we send out an email message either saying to the provider, hey, it's approved or it's not approved, and the reason codes, both of those. So that's kind of the way we make sure that they understand exactly what the status of that application process. Okay, so this should be very similar. And if you weren't in on the original initial, then this is very similar to the initial. We just carry that continued eligibility, and we also make the start date of the continued eligibility set to 1 day after or 1 day following the end date of the current program. Okay, so we don't shorten that up. If you come in and you get that done within 80 days or whatever, or what, we don't shorten that up by a month or something like that. We put it at the end of that, at the expiration period of the current date. Okay. Now I've got a couple additional rules, and then I'm going to bring it back up for questions. So, just so you understand, the system will have a permission setting. So we'll either tag that permission setting to a role, or we'll tag that permission setting to a user. Depends how we set that up. But there will be a setting that allows a user to extend the end date of an active program. The setting can be set for a role or specific user. Now, what does that mean? There may be occasions where we've exceeded or we're getting ready to exceed because of the review process or whatever, the expiration of the current program. There will be the ability for the right person with the right role to be able to extend that program out until we get through the review process. Okay. There's another rule. It says if all programs of a provider have expired, every single program is a provider, and those are according to the rules and the extended time periods and all those kinds of things. So the time is exhausted. They haven't submitted them, and every program they haven't submitted, then that provider will need to go back through a pre-screening process. Okay. And when the add training program button is selected for that provider on the details page, they'll get a message indicating that they will need to go through the pre-screening process, and we'll give them a link to that pre-screening process. Okay, so we have to gather the information again on what type of provider and some documentation on to get them through that pre-screening process. That will enable them to submit programs again. Okay. And then finally, an additional thing is the system will also, besides the review list, there's going to be a review list. In fact, I'll show you that. The system will also have a report that shows all training programs and their status. This report will be filterable by, of course, LWIA, an expiration date range, and status. And if there's something else we all decide that that needs to be filtered by, we'll definitely add that in. But not only will there be a landing page with a listing, there will also be a report. Okay. Let me kind of show you. Oh, here's something else. I'm going to pull this down, give you, because this is not built yet, but I'm going to give you a preview of this. When you, if you're an ETPL coordinator, you're reviewing a program. So I'm on the program study page or the outcomes page or costs, any of these pages or sections, whatever you want to call them. If you're on any of those, and you're reviewing them, you'll have a view changes button up here. And what that will do is just show you in a pop-up here, it'll show you what the differences are between the program that you're reviewing for continuation and the program that's active right now. So you don't have to guess or try to put them side by side on a couple monitors or anything like that. You will be able to see, of course, this is an example, but you will be able to see. So what I showed on this page is, what if the description changed and the zip code changed from 520301 to 520399. That would show that. If there's nothing changed on that particular page, then that button won't be available. If you go to a page and there are changes, it'll have that button available and you can go right to them, and it'll only list the changes. It won't list the whole data set that's from that page.
And now, can you carry over the red asterisks in those situations where it's the critical information that
Oh, sure.
prompts?
Good
So it's on
input.
this screen. So, because it might also have a change in cost, which we don't, as I mentioned earlier, which we're not in the new policy going to care as far as being critical, even though it is now. So
Great
it
idea.
wouldn't have, it would show a change, but it wouldn't have the red. So that's easy for them to, because those are the things you're really going to have to, review and
Dial into.
ensure you agree with the new information as you are preparing to approve it for the rest of its period of eligibility.
It's a great
And just
idea.
and make sure everyone understood, I said that earlier, if they're changing information, all they're going to get is the approval to continue through whatever that expiration date is. They're not getting a new 2-year period from that point on.
Yeah, this will be available too. This will be available too, even when we're not in that continuation and reapply period. If a provider has to go in and edit their program, then that goes into the review process, and then you can look at those changes to say, okay, we don't need to do anything, it's okay, or, well, we need to do something. Okay.
Yeah, so like if all that changes costs, you'll get a pop-up that says, hey, they change your costs. We just want you to be aware of that, but you don't have to do anything because it's not a critical piece of information that requires a new approval, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, it will show you the old and the new cost. You see how you got your current zip code and your new zip code? It's not the cost is not going to be broken down like that.
No, it will. If we were on the cost page right now, we're on the program study page.
Right.
But if we were on the cost page, you would see all the changes between and the breakdown between. So if I was, let me get to that. Let me get to that page. Hold on a minute.
All right.
Let me get to that for you so we can talk through that. Okay. All right. So if we were on a cost page, come on. Let me get back to this. Hopefully we're not in the middle of a deployment, because let me go to UAT. It's not under deployment right now. And we'll just go here real quick. Yeah, maybe I won't. Bear with me here. It's not in there either, maybe. I don't know what's going on right now. Let me just pull one of these up. Okay, this is works. So if we were in a cost page and some of these, we'll give you every one that's changed. So in this case, if any of these change, we'll probably give you this whole thing because we have a total cost at the bottom. So these will be probably side by side in that pop-up. Okay. And it'll tell you what's changed on that page. This could also be changed. These could be changed. We'll tell you everything that's changed on that page.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, so I just didn't put examples of all those different scenarios, but they'll be in that. Anything that's different will be in that. Okay. Any other questions on on workflow that we want to talk through, or concerns or thoughts that might help this? It's a new process, but we want to
Okay,
make it easy.
let me ask you a question. When a new provider submitting a new form and stuff, and they say they're part of the rapid, they part of RAP, the what you call it again, the registered apprenticeship program. And
Yeah.
we need certain documentations and stuff. Would the system allow them to put that in their system? I see it here, but
Yep.
would you need any document to be uploaded into there?
I don't think this is I don't think this is actually mandatory. We didn't have a
Oh.
red asterisk on this. And
But
that's the
the
only
number is the ID number is, because sometimes I'm
yeah,
getting this program.
this is mandatory. You got to get the Rapids ID number. And what I'm planning to do is part of our interfaces is I think we can get may not be up to the day, but I think we can get a dump of Rapids IDs from DOL
Yeah,
that we
and
can put in
Robert,
our system and check that out.
yeah, Robert, if you get a RAPS for approval, you need to forward that on to Paula.
Oh
We
yeah,
all,
that I
okay,
do.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, oh
I
yeah,
didn't want to interpret
yeah.
yours as saying you get these requests. So, that's an
No.
important thing to know from a state perspective. Any programs that, and this is current. So, if you happen to get one of these come your way, well, it's
Yeah, when I see
somewhat
it,
current,
I
yeah,
touch base with you guys, even CCU and stuff, so okay, I got
yeah.
this. Check the system and see. And
Right.
sometimes y'all coming back and say, hey, it ain't no ID. I'm
Right.
like, yeah,
Sometimes we can't find it. But any
right.
registered apprenticeship, any virtual only program, and any out of state only, if they have facilities only in another state, all those will come to the state ETPL coordinator moving
Correct.
forward. They won't have the option to say, like they do now, say, well, I think the people will be served in LWS 7, so let's go ahead and contact Rosa to have her look at this. It'll the system will recognize those based on choices made in the program application screens to say, oh, this goes to the state ETPL, not local ETPL.
Yeah, because Chicago got a different way of putting in some of these providers. I even got a provider that said, well, we approved it by Cook. I'm like, well, hey, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You got to get approved through the whole state, and I don't see it.
Yeah.
And
one of the
so
things we're going to
hopefully,
have to, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Robert.
go ahead.
I say one of the things we're going to have to do in the meantime and getting policy updated and especially before the transition is when we look at all these programs, we're going to have a huge cleanup. And one of the requirements of new policy will be your provider name, your program name, your program description should be consistent with what someone from the public would see on your webpage. Too often we see programs that they put a number in front of it or a symbol because they know that'll take them to the top of some sorted list, or for whatever reason they use it. I don't know why they would use it. If we can't match that up to the website and say, oh, okay, well, it does have the pound sign as the first because it's a math course or whatever, just using a silly example. If we can't match that up, then we're not going to accept that as the description or the name or whatever. So, we're going to have all the providers look at their information and update these things. And, with that said, quick thought is, well, what's that mean for eligibility continuation? And I certainly wouldn't want if hundreds of programs decided they had to update their name. I think we got to figure out what we're going to do with that, because that would put one heck of a burden on everyone if we do it as a mass, uh, change,
No,
because we're asking for, everyone to clean things up. We'll think about that, but that is something that'll be coming in the future, is that we have to get these things cleaned up, get them consistent with, their actual information shared with the public.
yes, I agree with you, because I do tell my providers that when you send me something, it got to match what you got on your website. You can't give me a program and got totally different when I get it. So I'm glad you're saying this, so everybody knows, because we want to keep this thing clean, and it's hard, because whatever you're doing for us, you got to also do for the public. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Any other thoughts, questions on this? Do you think it's going to work? It's doable? Okay, we have just a few things left to get upgraded in the training program piece. Then we're going to add this in. So probably within a few weeks, probably the end of October, first part of November, you will have this whole training program, the workflow process, the pre-screening, all of that should be completed. And we'll probably put a pin in that for a while, so that we can go forward with some other things. But it's getting close, and we definitely wanted to get it out in front of you folks today. So, all right, if there's no other questions or
Quick
comments,
question. Quick
go
question.
ahead.
Let me ask you, on the program description, how many characters are allowed to go in there? Is there a amount that's going to
Yes.
stop in case somebody got a lot of stuff to say?
Yes, there's a limit. I think it's 2,500.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
think that should be good. I think that should
Yeah,
be good
it'll
enough.
be in the program description, where we've created info bubbles that will go next to all of this stuff. And we will say in those info bubbles, limit this to, 2,500 characters or what have you. So hopefully that'll help them from going too far
Yeah.
over.
And what Al and the team are doing, not only just for programs providers, but for participants, is when we upload quarterly and annual reports, there's an edit check in the system from DOL that says, hey, we won't accept that. So, if you put, like, it'll analyze the description and it'll say that's just a bunch of garbage. Or it's exactly the same as another program submitted, which can't be. They're two different programs. Then they have to have different description, and you can't just change the first word of each description and think it's going to be accepted. I don't know how much of that we can program into 2.0, but they're going to do as much as they can to eliminate some of these edits that we come back to you. Paula reaches out to a lot of you and says, hey, as we upload the quarterly report, we've got some of these errors. The biggest one from a participant's perspective is when someone enters 50,000 and then hits hourly wage. Well, that kicks back immediately to us. That's not going to be allowed in 2.0, because it's going to have an edit check to say nobody's making $50,000 a year. I'm sorry, an hour. So we'll have some edit checks. So it's going to be nice to clean things up. The whoever's putting in, whether it be a customer in an application, career planner helping them, provider in a provider or program application, are going to get these immediate results of, hey, something doesn't seem right here. Can you please review this and re-enter the information? And hopefully we'll have a lot less errors at the end of each quarter and the end of the year when we go to submit these. And that's all in the Pearl file, as far as, like Laura said, how many characters are allowed. The one thing that changed is, and we're doing this automatically in current IWDS, is they went from a 6-digit SOC code or OwnNet code to 8 digits. So they want the 2 decimal point, the numbers after the decimal. We don't use DOTL in that kind of description or detail. So it's automatically populated with zeros. But in the new system, we're going to have to put all 8 numbers in there. Otherwise, it'll get kicked back, and we don't want to have it, because there could be a lot of programs get kicked back in submission if we don't have those all 8 digits in there. So we'll you know, like Laura said, we'll tell you how many digits, how many characters, how many this or that. And when it seems out of line, you'll get notified.
Do we have to put the dashes or the period in those numbers?
Which numbers? The zip code?
Yes.
SIP or
No.
ONET code.
No, you
Oh,
don't have to. No, that's really getting a bunch of upgrades now. But you do not have to. You do not have to do that. Let me see where we're at. This is UAT. Let me go over here. So let me get in here and let me edit this. So if I put in 520301, that should find it found it. See, didn't have to put anything in there.
Okay, so the system automatically put the dot.
See that? Yeah, it
Right.
worries about that. We also have another upgrade. This is getting a little bit more upgraded yet. There's going to be one button, not two, but we also have another upgrade that's in here that you're going to like is you can put any portion of a number in there and it'll bring back, if you remember that, it'll bring back anything.
Yes, I remember that. I thought that was a great idea when y'all came
Yeah.
up with it.
Yeah, somebody came up with that on local and we put that in just recently. So not only just a word, not only just something like a word, it'll come up, but also is if you put like 303, anything that contained 303, it would actually bring up, there's a 303, there's a 303. See? So if you don't, it's like, I remember some of it, I don't remember all of it. You could start like that and it'll bring up all those. So we've added that capability, make that a lot easier and more friendly to use. And then this is going to rearrange just a little bit, just rearrangement, just so, because this is hard to see and hard to use. It's like, you don't know, well, should I use that or that? This is going to be moved into one field. If you put something in here and hit that button, it's going to validate it and put it directly down there if it's valid. And if it's not valid, it'll bring up the modal. Or if you don't put anything in there, it'll bring up the modal. So that's going to be simplified a lot. There's no need to have this complicated. There's no need. Same with ONET codes. We've also in here. Let me make sure I can find one. 111011, I believe. We've got this in here too. I'll probably. Yep. So same with ONET codes, you can search by just a portion of the number or also.
Well, if you just put two, you're going to get the entire sector.
Yeah. If you
or
didn't,
industry.
well, you're going to get this. This is, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So there's a lot of new capability in that we've added. I think it's going to be a lot more friendly, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if we made a decision, but I think if not, discuss that whole 6 and 8 digit. If we're not going to use the 00 or 01, the thing after the decimal,
yeah,
maybe we set up 2.0 to only use 6 digits, and then in reporting you auto populate the 00. Because see, yes, where you got that, the 11, 10, 11.00 and 0.03 act as the same thing in our current system.
But they're different. But they're different.
But they are, but we capture them as 11, 10, 11. That's it. We don't have a total go down to the, we don't have the total demand occupation go down because we don't have data that goes down to the 0.00, 0.03 level. So we couldn't make decisions off of that anyway. So we just group them all together at the 00 level. If you have 03,
so we would just take whatever this,
yep.
This description is.
So I think we can go ahead and leave the
only 6 digits, or is the
yes,
reporting 8 digits?
No, report 8 digits, but we can only get data on 6.
Okay, so we still have to have 8 for reporting purposes.
But I'm thinking, but I'm thinking since we our total will be set up on 6 digits, or it'll be all 0.00 anyway, that we just have them fill in 6 digits, and when you do reporting, you just go ahead and add the decimal and 2 zeros afterwards. That I think that's how Jeff does it now. Is he just puts zeros at the end automatically.
Sure. He does it.
I'd hate for him to start putting 00 or someone accidentally hit 09 and it kicked back because we don't use 09.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that.
So so it just was a
Remind
thought
me
that
of
came
that.
up as we
Let's
talk about that.
Yeah. When we get another meeting next week, let's talk about that. Make sure we know what we got to do for that. But
I think one of the last things, which I'm not sure today was appropriate with bringing a lot of these ETPL coordinators for the first time, is maybe lay out all those dates and get a consensus from the coordinators on what they think of, our 90, 60, 30 expiration date, how long after expiration can they do certain things, kind of thing. So I think
I'll lay that out.
once we lay that out, I think we want to share and get everyone's consensus on what we think are the appropriate number of days to process these things and all that.
Yeah, I'll get these where we have these days laid out kind of in a table so that we can kind of look at them together just to make sure. One of the things, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I think that email might need to indicate, okay, like this email here, is we might not want to say within 90 days. We might want to just say you need to submit it, right? Because the thing that bothers me about that is if you see 90 days, you're gonna wait. And you may just take your old sweet time. What really in that 90 days, what has to occur is not only their submission, but the review process, right? So
I agree.
we may want to say, please submit within 15 or 30 days. We may want to say that so that we can get that going. Because otherwise, I think they're just going to say, oh, I got 90 days. I get 90 days, whatever.
I agree with that. I'm with it.
Yeah, so
I
we want to
agree
talk
with
about
that as well.
Yeah, we need to talk about that language.
Al, I
I'm
put
all
in
for-
the chat. I put in the
Yeah.
chat for anyone that sends out, the coordinators that send out emails to the providers to send those to Mark and myself.
That's a great
Maybe
idea.
that will help us come up with some language to put in this that will
That's a
help.
great idea. That's a
Okay.
great idea, everybody. That's a
Mhm.
great idea. Definitely
about
would like to
once-
see that.
How about something like this once you approve them and telling them that everything is good? I know you say it's going to be email, but do we need to have something in writing to sign off on?
Who sign off?
The provider that their program got approved.
They're going to get an email that says it got approved.
Oh,
Definitely.
okay.
There's an
once-
email that says automatically it'll go out and say it got approved. This doesn't show that email, but this is a non-approvable one. But there's going to be an approved email. Oh, here it is right here. This is probably going to change. There's a lot of stuff over here. I've got some good comments on, and we're going to look at your emails, but we're definitely going to send an email out. Programs are approved.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
show
and-
you what I sent out, after
Okay.
I send it to the
Sure.
providers, but I'll let you and Paula check it out and
Yeah.
this
Okay.
is what I
Excellent.
do up here.
And,
Okay.
and
That's
to to Crystal's point, we are going to encourage, although I don't think we're going to prevent, encourage providers handle this, meaning application, submission, completion, submission. We will not, my understanding, and correct me, Laura or Sarah, my understanding is we will not prevent ETPL coordinators from handling that, but that's a lot of work on all your parts, especially because you're going to also have to do the approval.
And not only
So-
that, but we now have to start collecting the all student data. So the
And that-
providers are going to have to start submitting that. So that would be something else on top of what you would be doing for them. So if they really want their programs on the list and they're good programs, then hopefully they'll come through.
It also is a possibility to help clean up the list. We just got a new report from program year 2021 through 2024. There were almost 6,000 different programs on the ETPL, and over 3,500 of those have never had anybody enrolled in them. So maybe providers will think twice about submitting programs that nobody is ever going to use or has never used by the WIOA system. Maybe not, maybe they still want to apply, but we've got some providers that have hundreds of programs, literally over 100 programs. And the highest majority, sometimes 80% of them, have never had anyone enrolled in them. So, at some point we need to figure out, is there really a need for the providers to take the time to submit all this? All of us at the local and then state level reviewing and approving, if there's really no intention or no realistic observation that somebody's going to enroll in that program. Obviously, we can't make that decision for a provider,
But
but it's a lot of work being spent, and these programs are not getting used.
yes, Mark, I agree with you because some of these programs, when I go and review them, I don't even see nobody enrolled in them, but they're constantly coming back for approval. I mean, some of them might just have one person that uses it, but when I get a review over 100, verifying zip code, verifying ONET code, the description and everything, and nobody's using it, it's like it's so much time wasted in making sure these programs is okay to stay on the state list. But thank you for bringing that up, Mark.
Looks like Paul has a question, has his hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question, something Mark just said. So in order for a program to get approved on the ETPL, they're going to have to provide program data, correct?
Well, we're going to have kind of a lead-in period because, you know, some people may not even have the capability to upload. There are going to be screens in the application where they can upload information. They can do it through Excel spreadsheet, especially if they have multiple programs, multiple participants. So, you know, eventually, yes, we will have to require to have that uploaded. When we implement this initially, it'll be more of a, hey, just so you're aware, we're asking for this information. If you don't have it, maybe maybe in a first year, I'm just throwing this out because we don't have this finalized, but maybe the first year we'll go ahead and review your program without the information, knowing that maybe you never had capability to track it that way. But eventually you will have to provide it. And if you don't provide it, then we're not going to approve it. That's just going to be a condition of approval eventually. That won't happen on day one, but eventually will happen.
Right.
Okay.
Teagle says we
Yeah.
can't go backwards, so we have to go forwards.
Yeah.
We have to
Yeah.
tell them, hey, you're going to be approved, but in the future, you will have to provide this information to us on an annual basis.
And so if you come in for initial, you don't have the information, okay, but you're going to come in at the end of the year for continued eligibility, you're going to have to tell us what happened during that first year. There's no reason not to. Now you've been forewarned to start tracking this by condition of being on the ETPL, start providing. And again, like I mentioned to Amy previously, until we get data, and that'll take, 3-4 years. I don't know what a good number of years are. We're not going to set standards or expectation goals. It's just about getting the information so that we can make an educated decision on what a goal should be. And each we're going to set it at a state level minimum. And to Amy's point, if you want to set something more stringent and say we would not recommend this program, even though it's on the list and met state goals, we would not recommend this for our participant. You can do that in your local policy, but you still have to share the information.
Okay, because I was just curious about that because like a lot of the community colleges that have like continuing education programs, that leads to industry recognized credentials, that's offered by a third party training institution that they've contracted out with. And often we get the information that the college itself doesn't have that and doesn't track that information, and then that they couldn't really get that information from that third party tracking or third party training institution that they've contracted with. So in those kind of situations, if they can't provide the data, then eventually they would not get approved.
Correct.
Okay.
And some states, I mean, we've been talking about this, we had the waiver for umpteen years until last year. Finally, they said no more waivers. But I mean, 6-7 years ago, we talked to other states on how they were going to implement this performance requirement. And some states said, you provide it or you don't. And if you don't, you're not on our list, period. We don't care who you are. We don't care what your reasoning is. If you don't provide it, period, you're not going to be on. So we're hoping that this little bit of a buffer period of a phase in where, okay, the first year we understand, but now that you should be tracking it, we're going to give you the spreadsheet to track it. We'll do what we can to help providers do that with the system and document or whatever. But eventually, yes, they will have to provide it.
Okay. Thank you for your attention and thank you for coming on today. If you have not been a regular, we appreciate it. We'll have a couple things here I got on the to-do list that I need to do. But this is getting close to being able to develop this, and we really appreciate your input. We're at the time, so we'll let you out and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Al. Thank you to the team too.
You bet.